Welcome back to No Idea, the podcast where you have no idea what we're going to talk about, and we have no idea how it's going to go. I'm back. It's Jenny. That's right. Coming back at you. But this time, I have our second returnee, if you will, Hannah Penny. The cutest name ever. She's back with us, and she's going to be helping me interview another newbie, which is Micah Paul Voorhees, or sometimes I like to say Voorwees just for fun, but his breathing is impeccable. He doesn't wheeze at all. So say hi.
Hi.
Either that's his voice, the only male voice here, so it's pretty easy to distinguish. But as we've introduced both of them, Hannah and I just did a podcast. That's right, Hannah, right?
Yes.
It's called Q&A, and we were also on a tandem bicycle in that episode.
That was really fun.
It was so much fun. The wind in your hair, you know? But we answered a whole bunch of questions that you guys sent us, and Micah was the sender of two of those questions. Yeah. And we're going to just hit him right back with those same questions that he asked us. So these might sound familiar, but I'll ask you the first one. Ready?
Okay.
Are you buckled?
No, I do not.
You should get buckled. Here we go. What animal would you ride into battle? I'm pretty sure that you also put specifications of, like, if it's a small animal, it becomes larger in battle.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously you can't ride a cricket into battle if it's tiny. So
you just go crunch.
Exactly. Let's see. Honestly, when I thought of that question, the thing that I had in mind was like that scene from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like the final one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what Hannah said. So
I was kind of like I was thinking of. Honestly, what I was thinking of was the polar bears that the White Witch was using to. She wasn't riding them, but you know,
but
they were pulling the chariot.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, what would be a fun animal to ride at a battle? Off the top of my head, I'm gonna go with. I'm looking at a squirrel, so I want to say a squirrel, but I'm actually gonna go with a scorpion. Would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Dangerous.
Yeah. But I guess it would only be dangerous if the stinger stung the people.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
it can't just, like, stomp on them.
So it's a stallion and a weapon.
Oh.
All rolled in.
Okay, all right.
And they also have those claws, right? That's a thing.
Oh, yeah, the big claws. Yeah, how could I forget?
It's like a crab with a stinger.
Basically.
Alternatively, a lobster.
Ooh, that'd be terrifying. Especially with butter. Anyway. Go ahead. Ask him the second question he asked us.
How do you define success?
Yeah, that's right. Now causing your brain to cook.
Yeah, that's a hard one. And I had an answer in my head when I asked him. And now I don't. So let's see. Success is when you accomplish your goal.
Okay, all right.
I think that's the simplest possible. But yeah, in a broader sense, like to have a successful life, I would say living the most glorifying life possible. Like life that is most glorifying to God. That's a successful life.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. I'm glad you had answers and you weren't just picking our brains, all right? But jumping into our topic, I'm very excited about this because I said, Micah, if you could teach the world anything, what would you teach them? And he came back at me with this. Are you ready, Hannah?
I'm ready.
You already know what it is, but we're going to tell you just for the sake of them. You want to talk about the importance of excellence. Fascinating. Why did you want to talk about this topic specifically?
I think it's a topic that is often neglected in American culture, especially in the church. We have a tendency to kind of just accept things as good enough, and, you know, that's where we stop. We don't really pursue getting past a satisfactory degree on most things, most skills. So that's why I think it's just, there's something very satisfying about pushing yourself beyond good enough, and that's one of the reasons I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think we see that in, like, art and music, as we talked about before, just in the Christian world.
Yeah.
We just settle for mediocrity a lot of the time. And it's really sad, because if we really think that, like, the gospel is life-changing and we want people to look at our lives and say, wow, I want that too, then we should really strive for excellence, because that's appealing and that's glorifying to God.
Yeah.
So, where do you think are some examples of this?
Some examples of not striving for excellence?
Well, either one. Give us some
or-
examples of not striving for excellence, and some examples of, like, people or things that you're like, wow, yes, you did it right.
So like the biblical example that my mind immediately jumps to of someone who's working to become excellent at something is the Apostle Paul. A lot of times when people are just reading through their Bible and they're flipping through the book of Acts kind of casually, they'll, see, okay, Paul has his conversion, and then he immediately starts going on his first missionary journey around the world spreading the gospel.
Yeah.
But that's not really what actually happens. Paul
Not quite
actually goes to see the other apostles, and he goes and he spends time with them, like 10 years with them, before he heads out on his first missionary journey. And during that time, he's essentially learning to understand Jesus better. He's already a theologian at this point, but he's growing in his relationship with Christ, so that he can go and share that message with other people. Essentially striving to not just be good, which he was good. His theology, was good for what they had at the time. But he's going beyond that. He's like, okay, how can I become excellent at this? He's spending 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of time to be focusing in on one thing.
Which is why he became an expert.
Yes. That's why he became an
Yeah.
expert, excellent at sharing the gospel.
Which is why so many people got saved.
Yeah, exactly. Another example that we were talking about earlier is David, who...
Classic.
Yes. Who, starting with the most famous story of David and Goliath.
Classic.
Yes.
Again, all right.
A lot of people, when you read that story out of context, it's like, okay, this shepherd, he went and he fought a giant. But that's not the whole story. He had been a shepherd for quite a while, and in doing that, the Bible describes several accomplishments of his.
Big rodents. He tackles several big animals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. He I think it talks about him killing a lion with his bare hands, and then a bear
Killing
with
a
his
bear
lion
with his
hands.
And killing a bear with his lion. Oh, we're on the same page. That's funny. Okay.
But yeah, all this was this was training to be equipped to actually take on Goliath at this point. Even though that wasn't necessarily his goal that he had in mind at that time, it was still he was someone who became qualified to do the thing that God was calling him to do.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't a soldier per se, he was still proficient in using a sling.
Yes. Exactly. And I feel like it's like the Lord was seeing him and saying, like, he can be entrusted just with this little, so he could be entrusted with a lot later on. And a lot of times we read in the Bible, like, we get just an overview of someone's life, so it seems to go by fast, but it's just words on a page, when in reality this took years and years of development for people, and that's, I think, a lot of times why we get frustrated in our own lives. And we're like, oh, well, why can't I be this great person now? But it takes a long time, people.
Yeah, and that might contribute to, like, the factor of the church kind of being satisfied with a lot of this mediocrity. It's like, oh, well, we see these instances of biblical characters kind of just spontaneously becoming saved, and they start doing stuff pretty much immediately, or at least it appears that way a lot of the time. And so we get the feeling that it's like, oh, we can just go do that. Like, we just have to give it our best effort as we have it right now, and that'll be good enough for God to use. sometimes that's true. I don't want to discredit that.
Yeah,
like
you
and
can
say
use anything.
I'm not gonna go and say, oh no, don't try things because that's very important too. It's a double-sided coin, but at the same time, that's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
Just imagine, like, you, Micah Voorhees, going out at, like, when you freshly were saved from the spiritual womb, if you will, and you decide, like, I'm gonna go and I'm going to go to this country and I'm going to preach to absolutely every single person I know, but you've only been saved for, like, a few days. How would that have gone?
Not very well. If had I been successful in convincing people, they would have had horrendous theology.
Exactly.
It probably would have been more of its own religion than proper Christianity at that point.
Accidental cult leader. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Micah, I feel like we're kind of getting there, but I'm just going to go ahead and ask it. Why should we be excellent?
So from the Christian standpoint, it's excellence in everything we do is glorifying to God. The Bible says whatever you do, do it as to the glory of God. And so if we're doing everything to the glory of God, we should strive to do it as best as we possibly can. So not just aiming for this, it's good enough kind of mentality. It's like, okay, how do we make this the best we possibly can? I think excellent is the perfect word to describe that. Because we're not, it's not perfect, because you can't ever be perfect at anything. There's always room to improve.
Yeah.
But it's striving for perfection that makes someone excellent, I find.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from a worldly perspective, it just feels really nice to be good at things. Like,
Yeah, it does.
Wrong.
you get to this point, especially if it's something you're passionate about, which I think is the thing that people can most easily become excellent at, is things that they're passionate about. To say, like, I'm the best person I know at doing this particular thing. That's just a good feeling to have. It's really good for your confidence.
It is. Can be prideful, but very true.
You're not necessarily worried about pride.
True.
When you're, in the world.
You're not worried about a lot of things when you're in the world. So something that I've noticed about doing things excellently is that specifically in churches, I find that sometimes the leadership will, like, give the jobs or roles or, like, parts that are kind of, like, in the spotlight or more seen, if you will, to the people who are just, like, more outgoing or more charismatic, even if they're not necessarily qualified to do that job with their skills. So I know that can be so frustrating with how sometimes that happens, where it's like, okay, this people person, like, they do great being the face of this company or the face of this organization or the face of this youth group or whatever it is, but they don't necessarily know how to run things, or they just don't have what it takes naturally for that job. And I feel like that can be so frustrating, because it's like they want to do their best, but they're not naturally inclined to do that job specifically. So what are your thoughts about that, Micah?
I've actually been thinking about this for a few weeks, because I was like,
wow, long time. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been brewing. Okay.
yeah, it's been brewing, because at first, my initial thought is just like, yeah, that sucks. Why do they do that? I was like, why do they do that? I started genuinely asking that question. I have a feeling that it's part of this this aspect of a lot of smaller churches particular, and then it just kind of ends up being the way that larger churches operate, because larger churches take their form from smaller churches and just kind of expand it. But
how do we do this but on a bigger scale?
Yeah, exactly. So in a smaller church, you're very limited with your resources a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And everyone knows everyone, so you kind of have a general idea of what everyone's skills are. And so in a small church, say you need someone to, play guitar for worship. Maybe there's, not someone out there who's a fantastic guitar player, but you have someone who knows, your five standard chords that you need for most worship songs, 3 standard chords you need for most worship songs.
Very simple.
And so you put them up on the stage because you don't have anyone better than that. And when you go and you apply that to a larger church setting, you don't know necessarily, the people making decisions don't know everyone in the church.
Yeah.
So they pick from the people that they know, which tend to be the most outgoing people, but a lot of times aren't the most qualified. Pretty much every large church that I've gone to, has better musicians than the ones that are in the worship band that just, aren't actively involved in the church that much, because they're not as outgoing and they're not offered these positions, which I feel like they take a lot of the time.
Didn't you have an example of when this happened to you in youth group?
Yeah, so like my last church the second to last church that I attended in Florida, I was involved there, but not very much. No one really knew me at that church until one of my friends ended up becoming the youth pastor, and he needed someone to be in a music video that they were going to use for the entire youth gathering that we had once a month on the first Friday of the month, where we had everyone from the different youth departments of the church there. And I kind of agreed to it because I was like, why not?
What have I got to lose?
And everyone ended up loving it. It was, I forget what the actual song was.
It was To Trouble by Taylor
Yes,
Swift.
It was
I only know
Trouble.
that because you told me ahead of time. Go ahead.
It was Trouble by Taylor Swift.
Classic.
And I was one of the only, 3 people in that music video. So, everyone in the youth group knew my face after that. And then that was, one of the first major improvements that they were making to the youth group. So they showed that video to, the actual regular church. And they're like, look, this is what we're, the kind of production value we're putting into the youth group. So then everyone, in the entire church knew what I looked like.
Became a star, yes.
I was the guy from the youth Trouble video.
Classic.
And after that, I got, a few different offers to be involved. I was about to graduate high school at the time. So I got a few different offers to be involved in different parts of the youth ministry, and didn't want to really do most of them. I eventually ended up running the sound booth.
Are you
at
qualified
the
to
church.
do that?
I was not at the time.
Okay, gotcha.
I was, trained in the bare minimal aspects of it there.
Bear with your lion hands, yes.
Yes. But there were tons of people that were more qualified to do that than I did, including some of the people that I ended up training to do that job. It's like, they got there and I'm like, you already know what you're doing. I don't know why they didn't have you do this for the past year or so, but yeah.
I also have an example from the church I went to for so long. I've been there since 2008. It's a great church. I have nothing against the people that were involved in this situation. I love them. Actually, they haven't been at my church for probably 5 years, but I love them, and they fitted the hole that needed to be filled. It was okay. But there was a time where my church back home, we were in need of a worship leader, because we were in between a couple worship leaders. And anyway, so we had this one guy. He was our events coordinator. He was our announcements guy. He was a greeter. He was a big people person, very charismatic, very outgoing, and full of energy. And just a great all-around guy. I love him to death. Again, nothing against him. But he didn't have the best voice, and there were definitely people in our church who could possibly lead worship better, but because he was on the pastor's board and he was on staff, he was put in the worship leader position. And you don't need a great singer in order to worship the Lord. I'm not trying to be petty and be if you don't have good music, then you can't worship
then just don't sing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying that, but it's just there are definitely people in our church that could have fit that role better. It was a little uncomfortable for those few months. Everybody felt it. It wasn't just me. It was just kind of yikes.
Okay.
But yeah, so.
Yes, those are both good examples of that. I've experienced it a lot as well. But, I mean, if we're all trying to become excellent at what we're naturally good at, or just like a position we've been given that we just don't know what we're doing yet, but we want to learn and everything, how do we become excellent, and are we okay with just the process of that?
Yeah, I
Because
think...
no one starts off amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, you have to remember that it's not an overnight process. We kind of touched on it earlier, where it's like Paul didn't, just immediately go into his ministry. He spent 10 years in process of becoming an expert in the life of Christ. And it's okay. We have to be okay with the process of becoming excellent. And we shouldn't get discouraged we shouldn't get discouraged with failing, and because failing is a part of the process.
Okay.
You can just start whenever.
So that's kind of the gist of becoming excellent. Is it's not the same as becoming perfect. You have to fight against this perfectionist urge a lot of the time, and to be like, okay, this is a problem. I need to fix every single aspect and do this to where there's no flaws in it whatsoever. That's not what it is necessarily. It's you're looking at the things that you're not perfect at, and you're striving for perfection, but you're realizing the whole time that you're never going to get there. Because if you get caught up in becoming perfect, it's actually going to hinder your process a lot, because
it'll become very frustrating.
Yeah, because you won't be perfect, and no matter how much you try at it, you'll never be perfect. And so you're just going to be upset the whole time.
So you should just strive for excellence, understanding that perfection's never going to come, but you're like, I just want to be the best that I can be, because it's glorifying to the Lord.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Something that we didn't talk about before, but that I want to say is, the church is a safe place to learn. So maybe, no, you're not good enough at the time in order to fit a certain position, but if there's someone that fits that position and is really good at whatever it is that needs to be done, ask them to train you. The church should be a safe place to where you should be able to learn. Like, recently before the freaking epidemic, I wanted to ask some of the people in the media department at my church if I could kind of shadow them, because that's something that I've always been super interested in. I have no expertise, no knowledge whatsoever that goes into media at a church. But I'm super interested in it. And the church should be a safe place where you can walk up to someone and be like, hey, I noticed how good you are at this. Would you mind letting me shadow you for a while, and then eventually kind of step in and help with this? And it's a great place to be able to be trained.
Yeah, I think the church is where I actually learned how to fail gracefully and in a way that I wouldn't get discouraged and not try again.
Yeah.
So this has been wonderful. Thank you both for your wisdom and sharing. Micah, any final thoughts?
Yeah, there is one more thing I actually wanted
This is like Paul signing off one of his letters.
well,
P.S.
it was
Peace and love to you, Paul.
So I was just thinking that there's one thing that I feel like is kind of crucial to this whole discussion that we skipped over because I forgot about it, which is what it takes to actually, what the path to becoming excellent is.
Oh yes, steps. Good.
Because I feel like this has been kind of like a downer thing where it's like, oh, you know what, you're not good isn't good enough. Just be better, and that's not really what I want to say. So real quick, just like the kind of pathway that most people take when learning a skill is, they start off bad at something. Most people are bad at most things. And most people will always be bad at most things, because you don't have enough time to even get decent at most things.
Yeah.
But then they get, to a point where they're competent in the thing, which is where you've gotten rid of all the major troubles. You've gotten the basics down. You still make mistakes fairly often, but if everyone's in a pinch, they can trust you to do a job and not utterly fail at it.
Yeah.
Then you get to the point where you're good at it, which is where most people stop. That's when, you're not making mistakes that often. You've got the nuances of whatever the skill is down. You're not perfect, but you get to this point where it's like, okay, I'm good at this. I'm better than the average Joe here. Step 4 is excellence, where you actually, and to get from good to excellent, it involves a shift of perspective from before you're just looking at, okay, what am I doing wrong in this, and try and eliminate all the things I'm doing wrong and get better at those. Going from good to excellent changes that to looking at, okay, what are the things I'm doing good, but I'm not doing perfect, and I'm going to try to do those things better. And you're never going to be perfect at every aspect of a skill. At least most skills, that's not possible. There's way too many aspects that you can always improve on.
Yeah.
But just the act of trying to improve on those skills and get them to be perfect, that's what separates someone who's excellent at a skill from someone who's just merely good at a skill.
Yeah. And we shouldn't just stop at good. We should be like, okay, this is good, but I want to make it the best it can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is
exactly
what sets people apart.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, there's a difference between looking at people who are like, all right, you're pretty good, and there's a difference between looking at that and someone who's like, whoa, you're like an expert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, thank you both for all the thoughts. This has been beneficial to me, who is currently working in a coffee shop as a newbie, and I don't know what I'm doing, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah.
So I hope this inspired you guys. That's right, YOUGUYS. Listening to this podcast. There's a space in between those two words I just spelled. And I hope that it inspired you and it helped you, and I hope that you think about what you're doing good and what you can change to make it be excellent and glorify the Lord in your life. Any final words? Anyone?
No, I think that's it.
No, I think I covered everything. I think we did it quite excellently, actually.
Go out, be excellent.
Go out, conquer!
Conquer!
This is No Idea Podcast. Signing off.